Today I will tell you 3 stories from my life. Just everything. Only 3 stories. The first story about the connection of points. I through the Reed College studying for 6 months, but 18 months after I still dangled near the university until I decided to leave completely. Why did I abandon my studies? But I naively chose a college which was almost as expensive as Stanford, and all the savings of my parents were spent on preparing for him. 6 months later, I did not see the meaning of my training. I did not know what I want to do in life, and he did not understand how college would help me realize this. And so I just spent the money of the parents that they saved all their lives. Therefore, I decided to quit college and believe that everything will be fine. I was at first scared, but looking back now, I understand that this was my best decision in my whole life. At that moment when I threw the college, I could stop saying that the required lessons are not interesting to me, and to visit those that were interesting. Not everything was so romantic. I did not have a room in the hostel, so I slept on the floor in the rooms of friends. I handed over cola bottles of 5 cents to buy food and walked 7 miles through the whole city every Sunday evening, so that once a week to eat normally in the temple of Krishna's. I liked him, and much of what I came across following my curiosity and intuition turned out to be now invaluable. None of this seemed useful for my life. But 10 years later, when we developed the first Macintosh, all this came in handy, and Mac became the first computer with a beautiful typography. If I had not been expelled, I would never have signed up for that calligraphy course, and the computers would not have such an amazing typography as it is now. Of course, it would be impossible to combine all the points together when I was in college, but after 10 years, everything became very, very clear. Once again, you cannot connect points looking forward. You can connect them only looking into the past. Therefore, you will have to trust those points that you will someday connect in the future. You will have to rely on something, on your character, fate, life, karma, anything. This approach never let me down, and he changed my life. My second story is about love and loss. I was lucky. I found what I loved to do quite early in life. Lou and I founded Apple in the garage of my parents when I was 20. We worked hard, and after 10 years, Apple grew out of 2 people to a 2 millionth company with a staff of 4,000 people. We released our best creature, Macintosh, but I only turned 30, and then they fired me. How can you fire from the company you founded? Well, as Apple grows, we hired talented people to help me manage the company, and in the first 5 years, everything went well. But then our vision began to diverge, and we ultimately quarreled. The board of directors went over to his side. Therefore, at 30, I was fired, and publicly. What was the meaning of my life was gone. I did not know what to do for me for several months. I felt that I had failed the past generation of entrepreneurs, that I dropped the relay wand when they gave it to me. I met with David Packard and Bob Nice and tried to apologize for what I had done. This was a public failure, and I even thought about running away somewhere away, but something slowly began to clear up in me. I still loved what I did. The course of events in Apple only slightly changed everything. I was rejected, but I loved, and in the end, I decided to start all over again. Then I did not understand, but it turned out that the dismissal with Apple was the best that could happen to me. The time of a successful person was replaced by the frivolity of a novice, less confident in anything. I freed myself and entered one of the most creative periods of my life. Over the next 5 years, I founded the New Next company, then another Pixar, and fell in love with an amazing woman who became my wife. Pixar created the very first computer-attended film in the history of toys, and is now the most successful animation studio in the world. During the amazing events, Apple bought Next. I returned to Apple, and the technology developed in Next became the heart of the current revival of Apple. And Lauren and I became a wonderful family. I'm sure that none of this would have happened if I had not been fired from Apple. The medicine was bitter, but it helped the patient. Sometimes life beats you with a head with a brick. Do not lose faith. I am convinced that the only thing that helped me continue the matter was that I loved my job. You need to find what you love, and this is also true for work. As for a relationship, your work will fill most of your life, and the only way to be completely satisfied is to do what you think is a great thing. And the only way to do great things is to love what you are doing. If you have not found your business yet, look, do not stop. As is the case with all heart fits, you will find out when you find. And like any good relationship, they become better and better over the years. Therefore, look until you find. Do not stop. My third story about death. When I was 17, I read a quote, something like that. If you live every day as if he is the last, someday you will be right. The quote made an impression on me, and since then, for 33 years, I have been looking in the mirror every day and ask myself if today I was the last in my life, would I want to do what I am going to do today? And as soon as the answer was no for several days, I understood that something had to be changed. The memory that I will die soon is the most important tool that helps me make complex decisions in my life. Because everything else is someone else's opinion. All this pride, all this fear of embarrassment and failure, all these things disappear in the face of death, leaving only what is really important. The memory of death is the best way to avoid the thought that you have something to lose. You are already naked. You no longer have reasons not to go to the call of your heart. About a year ago, I was diagnosed with cancer. A scan came to me at 7.30 in the morning, and he clearly showed the tumor in the pancreas. I did not even know what the pancreas was. Doctors told me that this type of cancer is incurable, and that I have to live no more than 6 months. My doctor advised me to go home and put things in order, which means of doctors to prepare for death. Does this mean to try to tell your children? What would you say over the next 10 years, in just a couple of months? This means making sure that everything is safely arranged so that your family is as easy as possible. This means saying goodbye. I lived with this diagnosis all day. Later evenings, they made me a biopsy. They put an endoscope in the throat, climbed through the stomach and guts, stuck the needle into the pancreas, and took several cells from the tumor. I was disconnected, but my wife, who was there, said that when the doctors looked at the cells under a microscope, they began to scream because I had a very rare form of pancreatic cancer, which can be cured by surgery. I had an operation, and now everything is in order with me. Death then came to me, the closest, and I hope closest, in the next few decades. Having survived this, I can now say the following with great confidence: then when death was a useful but purely fictional concept, no one wants to die. Even people who want to get into heaven do not want to die. And still, the death point for all of us. No one can ever avoid her. So it should be, because death is probably the best invention of life. She is the reason for the change. She cleanses the old to open the road to a new one. Now the new is you, but once, not very well left, you will become old, and you will be removed. Sorry for such drama, but it's true. Your time is limited, so do not spend it on the living of someone else's life. Do not fall into the trap of dogma, which says to live the thoughts of other people. Do not let the noise of other people's opinions kill your inner voice. And the most important thing, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. Somehow, they already know who you really want to become. Everything else is secondary. When I was young, I read an amazing publication, The Catalog of the Whole Earth, which was one of my generation Bealeys. She was written by a guy named Stuart Brent, who lives here nearby. It was in the late 60s, to personal computers and desktop publishers, so it was made with the help of writing machines, scissors, and Polaroids, something like Google in paper form, 35 years before Google. The publication was idealistic and crowded with great ideas. Stuart and his team made several releases of the catalog, and in the end, they published the final number. It was in the mid-70s, and I was your age. On the last page of the cover was a photo of the road in the early morning, such as the one on which you may have caught the car if you like adventure. There were such words under it: remain hungry, stay reckless. It was their farewell message: stay hungry, stay foolish. And I always wished myself this. And now that you are graduating from the Institute and start again, I wish you it. Stay hungry, stay foolish. Thanks to everyone. Subscribe for more content.